Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 530. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
Matt Sellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, we have the courage to start the first in a three-part The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom series. I guess series is the right thing to call it. Over the next 3 weeks, we'll be talking Tears of the Kingdom. Of course, ultimately, we will place Tears of the Kingdom on our list, which you can, as always, follow along with at thefreecheese.com/the list. We'll kind of set the stage here as our intro music plays out. We are recording this episode about 5 months before you're hearing it. And we're going to spend this episode really talking about the last, our early experiences with the game, but also the game that came prior to this, the Breath of the Wild. We'll talk a bit about that, where we left off with that. We will talk about kind of where, at this point in time, the Switch is and has been. And then we'll talk about Tears of the Kingdom. I should say that we are likely to spoil Breath of the Wild. We are not going to spoil story from Tears of the Kingdom, but I would say that some general discoveries, some overall happenings within the map and the area and whatnot are definitely going to be talked about, because we want to talk kind of candidly. This is also our first time, the three of us together, that we've been able to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, and just sort of like, I think we've each individually talked to one another about little things we've done, but it's been we've not done this together. So this is kind of our first opportunity for that. So I think with that, why don't we dive first into Breath of the Wild? I've seen a lot of comments, a lot of reviewers at this point point out that Tears of the Kingdom has given them the gift of playing Breath of the Wild again for the first time, with how greatly this game adds to the foundation that Breath of the Wild built. So to begin, I'd like to ask, what was your initial reaction to the reveal of Breath of the Wild in 2014? And Mark, I'll start with you.
Talking about that little clip that they played. Wow, like that. Definitely impressionable and impactful. That's for sure. Just for them to like show off that world, or that little piece of land that looked too good to be true, as it was. And then just for Link to be running from a guardian, just out of nowhere, that made me, before the game came out, like that made, like, my imagination just like went off. Like it was just off the charts. Like it got me thinking, like, oh, like, you're not safe at almost any moment in this game. Like, how cool would it be if, like, instead of going through a dungeon to fight a boss, the boss was just impatient for once and decided to come to you? Like, that's where my mind was going initially with this. But, like, yeah, I didn't have a problem with the art style. Like, I think it looked great. Link did look a little different, not too different, but you can see that there is a noticeable difference between that little clip versus what we got. Yeah, it was like, oh, he's not wearing green anymore. He's like, doesn't have the hat. Everything's like, he's not using the sword really. Like, just starts with the bow, and it's just just a lot of new.
Yeah, remember we all thought that he was a girl at the beginning? We didn't think it was even Link. We were like, who's the girl?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Because there was the hood, then the hood comes down after riding I guess it was Epona or just some horse. The hood came down, and then we see the long hair on Link. It was the first time we'd seen Link with that kind of hair and that kind of style.
True, because he's usually, when it comes to like a more, I guess, stylized Link that I don't want to say realistic, but like I guess since like Twilight Princess, maybe between that Skyward Sword to now this, Link has always had like that cartoony vibe to him, but like I know he's always like a pretty boy, but they purposely made him not so pretty in those games. So
yeah, like it was not Skyrim mod Link, but it was definitely like.
But so like to see this, it was like, whoa, he's like really pretty. I'm not even sure if this is Link.
Yeah,
you know, and you just begin and like the whole attire with the costume and everything. It was like we thought we knew. You know, like we think we could always predict Nintendo, and then we don't.
No, and I think it like in hindsight, especially, but I think that not seeing the green tunic, not seeing him wear his traditional anything, it was very much like they're doing something really different with this. But Matt, what about you? When you first saw the Breath of the Wild teaser, which at that point was just Zelda for the Wii U, do you remember your reaction to it?
No. Because I'm going to say I probably watched that direct, but I had no affinity for that goddamn console, so I didn't think I would ever play it.
Well, then let's bump up a little bit. So here we are, March 3rd, 2017. Me, Matt, Danny, and Scott out there in line at the Best Buy. Shout out to our friends who we will never speak. I still hope one day I just like bump into one of them randomly and we both know each other from somewhere but don't know why or what, because I look completely different and I don't know even what they look like. For listeners who've not been familiar with Danny and Scott or have not heard their names in a while, those were the two fellas that Matt and I made friends with in line at the Best Buy while buying our Switch. Anyway. So do you remember your first experience post-Switch, your first experience with Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, it was, it was different. At this point, the only really Zelda game I ever really sank time into was Twilight Princess. It was very weird to, go out, and then it was even weirder when it's not structured in a way of like you go here, now you're in this temple, now you go here, you're in this temple. It wasn't really it was just kind of like, all right, here's some objectives you have, go do whatever. And then I think the main thing that I was like really stoked about was just like I could climb on anything, and whether or not I had enough stamina to make it up, it was like literally anything is fair game here. This is open world in a way that doesn't have the yellow grid outlines or anything like guiding your path up a mountain. It's like if you have enough, like obviously the first part you don't have enough stamina. It was like you get yourself up that mountain, you're good. It was a little. It was weird. It was, that was like the one mechanic that I remember when I finally saw it for the first time. I was like, damn, this is. I wish more games had this.
And you were fresh off of Horizon Zero Dawn at that point too, so it was.
No, I'm not. I'm in it still.
Oh, you. Okay.
That's what happened. I just was more gravitated towards that game than I was ever Breath of the Wild during that time.
So, okay. Yeah.
That's what happened. That's the main reason I did what I did with Breath of the Wild.
I want to come back to that specifically, but Mark, I want to know your first experience with Breath of the Wild. Did this, being someone who had a strong Zelda background, was this a shock to the Mark system, or was this...
It definitely started with, like, Adventurous Wander, and it was nice, and then I'm itching to get to a certain part because at this point in my life, I saw myself as a very, I guess, particular type of Zelda fan. So like I knew what I liked from the games, and what I liked was the combat. The dungeons, the combat, kind of that combined. So as soon as it got more into that stuff was when it went from Adventurous Wander to hard comparisons. Seeing what was new, what was taken away, and all that, and it made me start to, like, it definitely was a shock to the core a little bit. A little bit's probably an understatement. I took it pretty hard. But, yeah, like, it slowly became more of, like, I started to get, tunnel vision where, like, I would enjoy the game here and there, but then it was hard to not play this without thinking about, past Zelda games and just always doing that compare contrast the whole time.
Yeah, I have some more specific questions that I think will help us dive into that a little bit, but just first reactions to the game. I remember kind of being just shocked at how weird it was and different it was. Like it was, but not turned off. I was very much like, this is great. And again, hindsight is everything, right? But at the time, I don't think I articulated it or quite felt like this. But now, having been through Breath of the Wild, been 6 years removed from the core of Breath of the Wild, and since then, having gone back and played some Zelda games I had not played prior to, or even revisiting, because I've now revisited Twilight Princess for the most part. I've played a bit of Skyward Sword in a way that I hadn't really before Breath of the Wild. It's funny, like, they really did just kind of keep making Ocarina of Time for 15 years? Or 10, 15, whatever. Right? When you really think about it, and like they really needed to do Breath of the Wild. And I'm not saying Breath of the Wild was perfect, but like my first reaction to it, I think, is indicative of kind of how much fatigue that series had quietly felt. Because I think the thing with a Zelda game is they come out every 6 years. So they're hard to be mad at, right? Like they're always going to be good, and they always are great games. Even Skyward Sword is a great game overall, right? I know that's like the weak point in the series. It's the low point that pivoted the franchise direction toward Breath of the Wild, but it's still a good game. There's nothing bad about the game. But yeah, playing Breath of the Wild for the first time, you do sort of feel that sense of freedom that you never had in a Zelda game before, but you also didn't really have in other open world games in that same sense. There is something that's like difficult to articulate, but something that is different about that game in comparison to other open world games that was freeing in a way.
Like, I think it's the first time Zelda had a like physics engine, like that mechanics, like to and really take advantage of it. Like that wasn't really a thing before, and the way they handled crafting in this was unlike any other game. Like, it was very intuitive. There was no real menu like Minecraft or something where you just put these things together and boom, it's you're using the environment the entire time as kind of your way of making things.
And yeah, there were small moments. Like, I remember the first time chopping down a tree to make a bridge. It was like, oh, wow, that worked. Like, and it was surprising that it worked because previously it would have been a series of things that led you exactly to that exact tree right? But like none of that happened. Or if it did, it was very hidden.
Right. And then if you chop that, after you chopped it down, if you hit it again,
right,
it becomes a bundle of sticks.
Right.
And then if you light the bundle of sticks on fire, it becomes a little fireplace. Like it
was very,
that's what I mean. Yes. Like there's no menu for that. It's just, you do it all right there.
Right. Or it was a jumping pad.
What about it?
Fire. You could usually
right exactly.
Like everything, like so like the way they handled physics in that game is just like it became more than just physics. It was like that was the core of that entire game.
It felt like a world that existed without you, and there were just things to discover. It really truly brought back that sense of adventure that I think Zelda had gotten away from for a really long time. How did you approach completing Breath of the Wild, I should say? I know you both had quite different experiences. I remember I played it for that first week. It's really funny because right before we started recording, I sent you guys a screenshot of my Switch's breakdown of my time with the game. I kind of had the same thing with Tears of the Kingdom that I did with Breath of the Wild, but Breath of the Wild, I remember playing it for about a week to 10 days or something, and then pivoted hard into Nier Automata. I got tired. I got overwhelmed by the size of Breath of the Wild, and it was really difficult to wrap my head around completing that world and that story and everything. So I remember taking about, I don't know, a few weeks off to play some Nier, and then I got to the end of like ending A, maybe B in Nier, and was like, oh, I see where this game's going. Let me play some more Zelda. So I pivoted back to Zelda, played that through to the end, and then I kind of would just keep going back to it, filling in the shrines, filling in the map. Did not chase the Koroks, but I did all of that, got the DLC, and played through the DLC stuff as it happened. And yeah, had a good time with that. But I did. I saw it through. I saw the main story through to the end. I completed the map. I completed all of the shrines. I did all of those things. And then played through the story DLC stuff. But I guess, Matt, I know your story. Mark, I kind of forget your story. Did you beat the game? Did you actually make it through?
Eventually I did, yeah.
Okay. Was it within that first year? Because I feel like we went into Game of the Year that year, and you did not. Yeah,
it was not that first year.
It was. Yeah, I remember it took some time for you to get back to it.
Yeah.
But you did go back. Did you go through the DLC stuff? The Champions of Hyrule, is that what it was called?
I think I was going to like start it, and then I never did. No, because like once it felt like it wasn't worth doing. Once I learned what happens,
the final boss of that was the best part. When you fight one of the monks from the shrines wakes up and you have to fight him. That was a lot of fun. That was really good. But yeah, other than that, it was just sort of more of that thing. And then Matt, you had the Matt approach of this. You want to elaborate a bit?
So I'm going back through 2017 to see the track the path here. So what's going on is brand new console also at this point. So I know I'm poking at Breath of the Wild, but it's never grabbing me. Like, the open world is great. The amount of creativity is awesome. It's just there's nothing. The substance isn't there as far as like this. I think the storytelling. I wasn't the biggest fan of his combat, and the weapon degradation. I hate it. It's still not my favorite system.
Yeah,
but I was not having a fun time like playing some of the things that I should be having fun with in a game like that.
Yeah.
So like I'm playing Horizon. Like Horizon's checking the other boxes that I'm struggling to check with Zelda. Yeah, right. It doesn't have the cool creativity open world, but like the story for Horizon is bonkers. I was having a lot of fun with the combat system, especially breaking down like the giant dinosaurs, piece by piece with, different types of arrows and the strategy behind that. I was just having more fun with that game at the time. And then like I'm looking ahead and it doesn't slow down because this is when I'm playing like everything that comes out. So like I'm looking ahead here. I probably play sometime MLB The Show. A little game that I had to play and I regret playing, Mass Effect Andromeda. I was playing that year. Prey comes out that year. I remember playing that at launch.
Yeah.
The Insane Trilogy for Crash Bandicoot. I spent more than enough time getting my platinum in Warped.
Right.
Splatoon 2's in July.
Right.
Mario and Rabbids, that first one that I had a lot of fun playing, is in the summer there. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy is in there. Like when it came down to it, I never found the gap to go back to it where I wasn't wanting to play something else. So then Game of the Year comes along, and that's when shit, I kind of have to play this. Yeah, and I don't think I did it in like December, but like in that fall, I think I found a gap there in the fall, and I was just like, well, you know what? Fuck it. You can just run to the middle. Let's see what happens. And after like dying enough in the middle to one specific, the way it plays out, where it's like if you don't face the dungeon bosses, you have to kind of do this boss rush thing. There was one boss in particular,
two, right?
So I had done one. One, and then it was one of the bosses I could not. I think it was the third boss too. I could not. My weapons were terrible. I was like literally chipping them away at them with bombs. I had a whole pattern, but this one I could not figure out. So I end up going and completing that dungeon, so that way I just don't have to worry about in the boss rush. I then finally see our final boss, and how that plays out in that basement room. And I again, strategy. I had to kind of maybe run around and get some weapons or whatever. But no, kind of once I figured out my strategy around that, I end up beating the game with only completing 2 of the I don't want to say dungeons, or temples, but those animal things completed.
Divine beasts.
Yeah, the divine beasts. I only have 2 of them completed, and my save still only has 2 of them completed. I've still not seen the other 2.
Having completed them, I don't think you're missing much. They were the weakest parts of that game. Like that felt like I have to do that stuff was not welcomed.
Destiny 2 came out in 2017 as well. So September 6th.
2017 was a year.
Loaded. I'm looking.
Like,
yeah.
It was
I didn't even realize.
Even the stuff that I didn't really. Oh my god, Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Like I'm looking at all these games that I spent so much time in, and even the ones that, like Batman: The Enemy Within, like that Telltale game.
Oh yeah, the Telltale.
Yeah, like the little stuff that not probably big AAA releases, but I'm playing stuff all throughout that year, and I just struggled to find time for it. And then I think I started playing that with Nier Automata around the same time, and you know how we all went with Nier. So yeah, that was kind of, it was not timing, but it was just like running to the middle was the first time that I kind of like had fun. I had like the challenge made it fun. So I started chasing that, and then, yeah, that's how I just end up beating the game.
I really want to take us into Tears of the Kingdom right off of this, but we got a little bit more work to do before we get there. I want to kind of bring our Breath of the Wild discussion to a close with, what is your lasting impression of Breath of the Wild?
I appreciate like the open world, like what it did for open worlds in video games I have seen and experienced since then. Like, hats off, thank you. I'm sure some of that stuff was in development, but like the success of this game definitely, I'm sure, pushed some titles to go in that direction. So like I like definitely appreciate that regard for it. But at the same time, it felt empty because I'm not really connected to the Zelda like story. Like I don't know. I feel like I'd never, like with Twilight Princess, like even the story in that game, like there was stuff there. It's just I was playing it because I was having fun going between the wolf and combat. I like the temples in that game, and I like the aesthetic of that game too. It's kind of dark. Like those are the reasons I'm playing. I played a lot of that Zelda. And this one, I don't know. I don't know. There was some kind of substance there that, it just, I don't know. It just didn't grab me. It's a great game. I'm not going to deny it. Like, I'm not sitting here saying it's a bad game. It's just something there just didn't grab me. And maybe maturity in myself or what my approach is, what I want in a video game, wasn't where it is maybe today. And that's maybe affected how I approach that game. But yeah, no, I never had the feeling of going back to it even like today, because I think I kind of like my story with that game, that you just run to the middle. Like, I feel like if I go back and complete it the regular way now, I lose the dumbness of that story.
Yeah. Mark, how about you? I know you went back, you kind of reconciled with it, but what's your lasting impression of Breath of the Wild?
I think it's going to be one of that franchise's most memorable games. Like, I feel like it's up there. Like, Ocarina of Time is obviously up there. I think A Link to the Past isn't too far behind.
Yeah.
And I think this, I think this is definitely like, I mean, I don't think anything's gonna be above Ocarina if you were born in that time. But especially for newer players now who are just getting into Zelda for the first time or something, I think it's gonna be a hard one to forget. And the fact that, like, to kind of echo Matt, to have a Zelda game be this trend-setting is very Nintendo, and that's how you know they did something right. Where, whether it's hardware or a game, the fact that it bleeds into other things and kind of has like a semi-cultural impact in video games, is definitely something. So like on a whole, it's very important. It was a necessary step for Nintendo to do something like this. It was very important for Zelda to break a lot of molds that it had for almost 2 decades, I feel. Yeah, so I mean, I like it. It's necessary. It's unique. It's distinctive, and there's growing pains with it.
Yeah, I think the growing pains is kind of where I land on this. Like, my answer to this question kind of sets up my next question, but I liked how it shaped the new direction of the series, but I feel like in cutting off the arms of what made it bad, we lost the fingers that were good. Right? Like,
I like that analogy. Yeah.
They needed to shape this thing up, right? Like, it needed to change, but in changing it, it did lose some of the things that I loved Zelda for, and it made me, going into Tears of the Kingdom, hopeful that they would bring some of those things back. Right. There were a lot of things missing from Breath of the Wild that I would consider Zelda staples, that I was coming into this game really kind of like, all right, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? So I guess before we fully transition, how did your lasting impression of Breath of the Wild shape your hopes and your concerns for Tears of the Kingdom?
I don't think Breath of the Wild, that legacy did anything for me. It's what I play in the future, past that, before Tears of the Kingdom, that I think sets the stage proper for my approach of Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
In that, I'm a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because we did get a Hyrule Warriors game between this.
Sure.
That took place in this world.
Yes.
Got 2, right? Oh, well, okay, 1 in this world.
Yeah, 1 was kind of all around, but 2 was specifically Breath of the Wild themed. And it kind of made you think, like, even though it's a spin-off, could this affect things? And so it did leave a lot to wonder again.
Yeah.
It was hard to really think about, because it's like, where do you go from here for a game like this, where like you built this huge sandbox, and no, that's not true. I mean, that's true, but I did know what I wanted. I mean, obviously I wanted to see if there was, if combat was going to be handled differently, if, the weapon breaking was going to be handled differently, if the story was going to be not a thing where you have to travel all over the world to take pictures just to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely like a more stronger connection to the narrative. I think it was just a lot of that. I think it was just a lot of frustrations I had with Breath of the Wild. I wanted those to be acknowledged and fixed.
I agree. Yeah, I think there were a lot of those little things like the ability to climb in the rain was a pain.
Yes.
You got around it, right? Like you just made a fire and camped out real quick, but it was those little things that were just like, this isn't fun.
I don't know if it was real quick.
Well, yeah.
Depending where you're at.
But my big thing was, I felt like a disconnect between the Zelda mythos, if you will, right? Like we did not really, it didn't feel like a Zelda game in that regard. And it's weird because like it doesn't mean that I just want them to keep doing the same old 7 sages, find all the Triforce, like, you know what I mean? Like there's definitely those things like in Zelda games where they needed to shed that stuff, but also like they'd become so synonymous with Zelda that to not have them felt like, boy, I hope that comes back.
Yeah, like there was a odd simplicity to Zelda that worked.
Yeah.
And it felt like they needed to do so much now where if they ever become simple again, it might be negative.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling like, I don't know. I mean, I've always been in the camp of like, you don't need bells and whistles to make your game good. You just got to have like 1 or 2 great things and just really excel with that and let that outshine all the rest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I guess for the first time, like the world is kind of the main character.
Yeah, that they certainly did that. And the other thing I wanted out of a sequel was a de-emphasis on the shrines and an emphasis or return to dungeons.
Yes. That is probably the
thing I wanted to see.
I think that was the loudest cry of everyone.
Yeah, because it was like you guys
Rightfully
almost nailed it. Like you almost got it perfect, but let's see. So okay, I don't want to go through the entire history of Tears of the Kingdom's, release, but I will say, put it this way: first reaction to you remember your reaction to that E3 29 trailer, 2029 E3 2019 trailer for at that point we didn't know the name, but just we see Link and Zelda moving through a dungeon. There's this figure, there's this green swirling text. What was Mark, was this like, hey, we're back, we're headed where I want to go, or were you disappointed we were still in this world?
I mean, I'm always ready to move on to new things. I think. So I think I'm like, sure, I'm ready for a new Zelda, a new style that's not in this world. But I get this. I'm fine with this being still in that world. I'm okay with that. It definitely was dark, and I like dark. It made me think they were in a dungeon. So all right, we're doing good. Yeah, like it wasn't a hopeful clip, right? Like it was kind of it was tragic. It was giving you like Majora's Mask vibes, since it is like a direct sequel to a game. So there's a lot of like comparisons there. So like it was definitely setting up some pretty decent expectations.
Matt, how about you? Was this exciting? Was this like, hey, I'm finally gonna do this? Or
I think my like first reaction was like, all right, we're doing another one of those. Like, obviously they were gonna do a sequel in some way, and that kept all the stuff. I was like, all right, we're staying here. I remember everyone was like clamoring because it was Zelda and Link walking together, and there was a lot of like, oh, are we going to do co-op? And I was like,
there was one other key thing about that. Sorry for cutting you off, but Zelda's hair's short, and in all of the post Breath of the Wild interviews and things like that, and whatever, Al Numa always said, like, because there were a lot of things going into Breath of the Wild that they talked about as, how do we break the conventions of Zelda? Maybe we think about who you play with, or how you play, or who you play as. He talked a lot about those things. They talked about aliens. They talked about having a motorcycle, some things that would end up as DLC in the first game. But he also talked about Zelda specifically's, her hair in the first game was too long to animate as a playable character. was a big thing that came up.
Oh.
So seeing her with short hair in this really ramped up that speculation of, is this co-op? Is she playable?
I was hoping that this was not co-op. I thought there were other things, other systems that they could focus. Like I said it before, like it was there. The makings of what I would have loved was there. It's just there was a couple systems that I wanted them to improve upon. One of them was story, and we were kind of getting at there. And I think I even made the joke. I think we got more story in this trailer than we did of all of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
It was dark and gloomy, which cool. All right, I can dig that aesthetic. But yeah, I was just really hoping. I was like, all right, I hope that they took all the crap that they heard about the weapon system and they fix it, and the combat is better. Because in 2019, this is when I'm beginning my descent into Dark Souls hell.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm like, I want like something. I don't need this to be Dark Souls, but I want a little bit. I want that challenge, but I want like the combats. I wanted something there. I want something. I don't know. There's a parry system and stuff. I was like, I want them to expand upon. I want more options. I don't want my shit to break every 30 seconds. That was my big hope.
Yeah.
Coming out of that trailer.
So I'm gonna bring us right into Tears of the Kingdom with a lead-in to Tears of the Kingdom that I experienced and you both experienced as well, and probably many of our listeners experienced. So there was a trailer from Nintendo Australia during the week of launch. You guys see this?
I think I ended up watching it.
Maybe.
I don't remember which one now,
it depicts a man on a train going to and from work.
Oh,
he seems to be in a rut, or I might even go as far as to say depressed and bored.
I don't know.
Upon arriving at home, he barely speaks to his wife, plops himself on the couch, and he finds a copy of Tears of the Kingdom awaiting him. He plays the game, and as he does, his life seems to suddenly have purpose again. He's bringing his Switch to work and thinking about and playing Zelda as much as possible. He's kind of looking out the window and imagining the world around him as he does in Tears of the Kingdom. And one thing that stands out about this is that the dude had a Switch before this and was not bringing it to work. And it made me think, like, well, why not? And I looked at my own Switch and thought, well, why not? And it's because we hadn't had a significant first-party release in a while. For us, at the time of release, I was rarely turning on my Switch. I had just bought Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, or Final Fantasy 3, the Pixel Remaster. Played that a little bit, and I have been on and off playing Monster Hunter on Switch, but looking back at my play history, I was never playing anything longer than a day at a time in any given month. And then I looked at where are we at first party wise. So just for 2023 alone, you had Fire Emblem Engage, Metroid Prime Remastered, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon, and Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. So 3 of those are remakes or remasters. 2 are original, but Bayonetta's, I think, quite smaller and quite a departure from what you'd want in another Bayonetta. And Fire Emblem Engage, it looks fine, but for me, I kind of burned out on Fire Emblem after 3 houses, and then it just got, it was a lot.
One of them should have already been out. Yeah, World Events delayed it.
Yeah, exactly, so Tears of the Kingdom kind of came at the right time. And then at the time of Tears of the Kingdom releasing and this recording, Pikmin 4 is the only other game on the calendar. I'm hoping that by the time we're listening, or you're listening to this and we're in November, that there were some other games peppered in throughout the calendar year, and hopefully there's some big surprises that are coming out this month that we're all very excited about. But, leading into this, there was that, and then when you think about 2022 in terms of Nintendo Switch, like Pokemon Violet and Scarlet came out and were equally exciting and disappointing for various reasons. I mean, it's been tough on Switch. It's been a long road for the Switch, I think. It was neat at the beginning when you had that novelty of like, wow, I can play Doom on this. And now it's like, well, I've got the other ones. I should just get Doom on that, you know? Like, it's not fun anymore to play these games on a hampered system. So you really are, at least in my case, I feel like I'm bound to what Nintendo has to offer. And the absence of something like a Tears of the Kingdom has been felt, I think. So May 12th, the game releases. This happens with big games. I remember the last time it really happened was Resident Evil Village. Something happens where I wake up just extra early enough by accident, or my internal clock just goes off. So I got up at like 5 a.m. that day and just jumped in and started playing. And then subsequently would clock. At that first weekend, I did nothing but play this game. I think that Saturday it came out was like 12 hours straight. Just the only time I stopped was to like refill a water bottle or eat something. And the eating something was like peanut butter and jelly or cereal. So it was just quick and I could get back to the couch. So I kind of dove right in. I guess this is the point in the podcast where if you're still listening and you've been like, I'll hang out until they start getting into specifics. This is the part where we get into specifics. And we're going to start talking about Tears of the Kingdom. So if you've not played, if you don't want to know any of the kind of specifics about, I would say, adventuring through the world or some of the changes that have happened in Tears of the Kingdom, I would bow out now and come back when you've played a little bit more. But again, we're not going to go into any crazy spoiler stuff because, to be honest, I think all three of us are in different spots of the game and we don't want to spoil anything for ourselves either. So I kind of want to start at the beginning with this game. I really love the entire opening sequence. I thought that like right from the beginning you have a sense of real danger happening. And I was just so thrilled to see Link and Zelda exploring the caves at the beginning. It felt like, I know we're picking up a little bit after Breath of the Wild's ending, but it felt like we're picking up right where they left off. Like the world of Hyrule has continued forward, but now there's this new something's happening and we need to investigate it. And they do that and you're sort of a witness to that. And then obviously you take control. But that immediacy of like, oh, something's different here. Something's dark. Something's dangerous sets in pretty quickly. What was your first impression stepping into Tears of the Kingdom? Mark, did it kind of shatter the negativity that still lingered from Breath of the Wild? Did it intrigue? Where were you with the opening?
I mean, I was definitely like super looking forward to it, and like it's, just as soon as I started it up, I love that it just dropped you right in. Like it knew you didn't play this before, so there's no menu. There's no, hey, press start. No, it just threw you in. It didn't even like even its presentation to the title was very simplistic. It was just like a basic like Arial font. Just
I don't
really
think
tiny.
I realized that until I was forced to close the application to update, and I had reopened the application legitimately. And I was like, oh, fuck, this just went.
Yeah. So, like, I dug that. And it was just like, all right, thank you. Like, cutting off the fat already.
Yep.
Just, you get, and you kind of know, like, if you play these games before, like, or any video game with a main character, like, you kind of know what's going to happen. Like, it, pulls a symphony of the night. Like, you're expecting it. Or it's like, all right, you're too good. You have all your hearts. You have your Master Sword already. Like, do not think you're going to keep this. It's just a matter of when. Like, but during that time, right? Like during that time though, it was neat just to like, all right, yeah, we're kind of picking up from that first reveal trailer in a sense. We're just going down exploring and everything's feeling weird and gloomy and what have you. And it was just it was just a spectacle the whole time.
Matt, how about you?
The same thing. I immediately was like, all right, here we go. I'm getting some story here. I'm just like, holy shit! This is great. Love this. And like what Mark said, it was just like where we were going. We were going down into the darkness. And then like the event happens, and it's like that is a threatening character that I don't think I am ready to see again anytime soon. And even more threatening, like Master Sword breaks. It's like that's like that symbolism right there is like the like whole shit. This is something this party's not ready for.
Yeah, because it does have that kind of like you walk into it and you're like, okay, we're gonna be good. This is gonna, and then to Mark's point too, it's just like, no, you're not. You are not. We're gonna reset you back, and then some. Right, like Link's whole arm becomes what it becomes. So we knew a little bit going into this. I mean, unless you had gone on blackout after the announcement and had not paid attention to the changes, but we learned that in this game, the Sheikah Slate, which was Breath of the Wild's sort of like, I don't know what
your Wii U tablet becomes a Switch tablet.
Well, yeah, of course. Sorry, yeah, the Wii U tablet's gone, and now we get the the Pura pad. But in that game, the Sheikah Slate was the home to how you did magnesis and all of the different abilities that Link had in that game. And they were very much linked to technology, where now they're all linked to Link. And I will tell you that going into this game, I was very much not excited. I wasn't excited about the game. Like I think by the time we realized what we were doing with Link's abilities, so just to reiterate them, but I think they're obvious if you've played it. But Ultra Hand is a big one, where you are able to pick up an item and fuse it with another, and then you can kind of continually do this to build vehicles or bridges or weapons. Or by weapons I mean like stationary weapons. I should point that out, because there's a separate ability, Fuse, that allows you to take two items and stick them together, and that could be Fuse allows you
weapon
to
and a
something you're holding to an item in the ground, which could be putting a rock at the end of a stick that you're holding so that you have a club to beat something with or break rocks. It can also be used on the fly to attach like a spicy pepper to an arrow so that you can make a fire arrow, right? We get recall, which lets you reverse time on an object specifically. What's the other one? Oh, and then ascend.
Ascend, yes.
So ascend lets you sort of, if you're under something that Link can pass vertically through, he will jump up and climb through whatever that thing is vertically.
I think that's my
and knowing all of those things going into the game, I was not excited. And then seeing that last kind of Aonuma 15-minute gameplay trailer where we see him build a boat to cross the river in the sky, I was like, I do not want to spend this whole game crafting. This is not what I want in this game. I just want to explore dungeons and do that stuff. Before I turn fate here and reveal where I ended up on those, did either of you have similar feelings going into the game? A hesitation or worry about the new mechanic?
So I didn't know all the powers. I knew you knew you were getting different ones, and I didn't even know it was his hand. I knew it was coming from his hand, but I just assumed that someone made me a Nintendo Power Glove, and I was doing them all through that.
Right.
So like I didn't know an ascend and rewind assisted. The only thing I knew was maybe fuse, and I think I confused that with the Ultra Hand. And so like I really did not know much. But when you said about like people crafting vehicles and stuff like that, I was like, all right. I know Nintendo is going to give you the ability to make fucking crazy goddamn ideas, but I think to get through the game, you're going to be able to get through doing the bare minimum. This game is a lot about giving you options to tackle your obstacles. So I was like, all right, I don't think I have to get too crazy with this. If I get crazy with it, sure, that's one other check, and me wanting to continue to play this. But no, I wasn't like concerned. And when I heard about fusing the weapons, I was like, oh shit, maybe this is how you improve durability.
Yeah, of course. Mark, what about you? Were you trepidatious going into the game?
Oh, absolutely. There's always gonna because of Breath of the Wild, I have this beast in the back of my head that I'm trying to ignore, where it's like it's just there. And it's just like, it's just gonna be more of the same shit.
Yeah.
But like, polished or whatever. And it's like, maybe not. Like, maybe it's just like that at first. You don't know. Like, there could be things way down the line that I could unlock that make this game way more convenient, and I'll like it a lot more in the end. But my complaint will be that it should have been there from the start. Mm-hmm. So who knows? But I think for the most part, I've definitely had to compare my experience with Breath of the Wild to this initially. Mm-hmm. I think I have a better initial experience with this game. I've learned since then to be a little more open-minded and just try to, even if there's things that I don't agree with in the game, just try to at least attempt to get lost in that world and just play by its rules, even if I don't like them, and then maybe I will end up finding some silver lining within it. And so, like, for the most part, yeah, it's been pretty enjoyable. There's still things where I'm just like, it is kind of more of the same, just a little different. So, but it's not hurting me as much as it initially did, for sure. It's not as big of a deal.
So,
and
have the abilities come around for you? To kind of jump right into that, like, where are you at with what Link can do and what you can do?
Ascend is my favorite. I don't give a shit about fusing. I like it. Like, it's cool to have the option. So, I mean, I will take advantage of it. But my brain, it's not trained to make that be the first thing that I want to do. Like, my initial reaction to everything is to handle it as, quote, natural as possible, meaning no abilities. Just, what do I do around me? But Ultra Hand has definitely become, like, I mean, it's gonna be the most used ability. Like, it has to be like that. Like, that's become the core of the game. So yeah, if I can't get to something, if I can't climb it, then it's like I'm gonna build like a 100-foot bridge until I get there. It's just gonna take a little longer, but like,
yeah,
yeah, I guess that's it.
Matt, how about you? Are you liking Link's new moves?
Yeah, I will say I don't use fuse as much as I should. I've made so many stone swords with just fucking sword with a rock at the end of it. That's like as far as my creative mind goes. I never think in the moment to do something else. I love the arrow mechanic with the fuse stuff because there's so many like hobgoblin fortresses or little areas that I go into, starting with a bomb arrow to really clear the area and then going in from there and seeing what havoc I can take on. So like stuff like that it's played a little bit. Like I said, I like the options this game kind of gives you. The Ultra Hand stuff, there's so many of those things that I have walked right, like those little workshop stations where you could probably create whatever the hell you want to create. I have just walked by like 95% of them. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really using it unless I kind of have to for a shrine or a specific side quest, maybe within the world or whatever. But No, I like Ascend. It reminds me of like quick travel up buildings in like the Spider-Man games where you just run up straight, and like it helps with that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I mean I like them. Like I said, I knew Ultra Hand gets crazy, and I've seen like TikToks and posts on Reddit and shit like that show how crazy that stuff can get. But I knew I never would need to take it that far. And I really haven't yet. I've had to create a cart here or there or whatever, but I'm nothing where I'm like getting frustrated, terribly frustrated with it.
Yeah. For me, it's been small things like there was a treasure chest behind a locked gate in a certain section, and I'm like, well, how do I get through that? And I realized there's like a big enough hole that the treasure chest can fit through it. And I looked around and there's 2 icicles hanging, and I was like, oh, wonder if I break those and fuse them together if I can reach it then. And then sure enough, I could. I think that stuff is really neat. To Mark's point, like being able to quickly just like, I don't know what to do. Oh, I'll build a bridge and just start cutting down trees and sticking them together and then climbing the trees. I think that's good. I think a lot of times what happens is I forget that I have these abilities because you did not have them in Breath of the Wild. And a lot of my Breath of the Wild play tendencies come back out, and then I forget to do something. But the deeper in I go, the more shrines, and that's one of the things, the shrines in the last game really wanted to continually emphasize Link's abilities and make sure that you understood them. And this game is doing that. You both mentioned you're not using Fuse to its fullest capability, right? And I have the same exact thing. I use it for the arrows nonstop, but I'm rarely holding down the weapon wheel or the ability wheel and choosing Fuse to then like start fusing items. But I just recently went through 2 shrines that strip Link of everything and you have to go in and just survive. And as I went through the one, it's supposed to be like a stealth mission. Like you're supposed to go in and like slowly take out these little dudes inside. And I went through, and first time through, I like crept up behind him because you start off, there's like 2 wooden sticks and a shield at the beginning. So I got that, and I walked up behind the dudes, and I was like, all right, well, easy. Hit him, and like barely chipped any damage. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is one of those shrines that I'm meant to do later, like when Link has a bit more power or something, right? Like, whatever. I kept trying to like poke at him and stuff, and then I was like, what am I doing wrong? Because then I was like, all right, let me go all the way in, because I was able to like take one dude out, steal his bow, and then like use his bow to get the perfect like cha-ching shot on somebody to the critical hit. And it's still like, then I got bum rushed by everybody in the little fortress and just murdered and kicked back to the start. And I did that a couple of times. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, oh wait, that barrel is not a barrel, that's like a stone barrel. I could fuse that with this stick, and I bet you that stick just got +5. Okay, this makes sense. Then I did that approach, and then going through it with that, I was like able to sneak around better and get the drop on them with heavier hits. And then like from that, I went to this other area where you talk to somebody kind of on the road, and they're like, oh yeah, we used to live in this village, but all these people took it over, so nobody lives there anymore. And he's like, it's down like the southwest if you want to go look at it, whatever. But you're not going to find anything because pirates came in and took it all over. And I was like, I got to do this now. So I wandered down that way, and it is nothing but like there's some blue, but a lot of it's like the black bokoblins. Like they're the high tier heavy hitters. Don't mess with these dudes until you have some hearts. And they're all spread out and they're all whatever. And I'm wandering through, and like at this point I'm not in a shrine, so I have all my regular equipment, but I really don't have anything great on hand in terms of weapons. So I'm just sort of like wandering through and like sneaking up, I'll kill someone, and then I was like, right, Fuse is fresh in my mind from that shrine. So now I'm starting to like, well, hold on, let me fuse this thing with my shield, so my shield does this. Let me fuse. I killed one of the dudes and it was one of the black bokoblins with, I don't know if you guys killed one of those yet, with the like triple horn. Yeah. So I was able to take that and fuse it to a sword that I had, and now I've got this crazy, like, super strong dagger thing. And so it's, the game gradually does teach you and push you to use those abilities more, and the more you do start to adopt them, I think the better the game becomes. It's not to say you can't play without them, but like it does make the game so much easier when you adopt them. I think Ascend is one I forget that I have often, and then I'm like looking at something like, what am I? Oh, right, I could just jump up through it. I don't have to do anything. I could just climb through the ceiling. But there's still, I don't know, a lot of it. Like even with Ultra Hand, like the ability to fuse things together. Like I just was chasing to try and get to the top of a tower last night. I have 2 towers left on the map that I need to light up. And one of them I got to is like surrounded by ice that is like near impossible to climb, and it's just a pain. And I ended up like navigating away from it and going and doing something else, getting sidetracked. And then as I'm sidetracked, I was like, I can build a balloon. I can build a balloon. Like I have all the things on hand because I did the gotcha machine in the sky, and I've got a balloon. I can just do that. So now, like tonight, after we're done recording, that's like, it's been in my head all day long. Like I cannot wait to get back to it because I know the solution at this point. Have either of you dreamt in Ultra Hand yet?
You mean
like 4 nights ago, I had a dream that I was just like organizing stuff in my backyard and in my house with Ultra Hand.
No, I haven't had that dream yet.
Oh, no.
It's a good time when you get there. We spent a good bit on abilities, and I know we don't want to go too much longer, but I also feel like we have barely scratched the surface on this game. So the first question I wrote down as I played the game, and I wanted to know from both of you, is which direction did you head once you landed back in Hyrule?
I circled a bit, but I eventually pushed northeast.
Okay. Northeast.
Yes.
Toward Death Mountain.
No. Sorry. Fuck. My sense of direction is terrible. Northwest. Sorry. Northwest.
To the
air.
What is it? Rito Village.
Yes.
Hebra Mountain. Okay, yeah.
Yes. The cold.
Mark, what about you?
Same. I also started to head that way since people talking in town were just already kind of alluding and hinting to go that way. I was like, yeah, I guess I'm going that way.
Yeah, I was curious if you needed, because they were very much hinting go that way, and I was like, can I go somewhere else? So I went northeast. Yeah, sorry, you had to double check.
I'm sorry, I fucked that. Yeah.
No. I went northeast, and I went to Death Mountain, and I did that whole area first. And then from there, I was like, well, screw it. I'm going to go southwest. And I went down there, and I got through most of that, and then was told, boy, it'd be really nice if you could fly like a bird or fly like one of the Rito. And I was like, okay, so I kind of had to go up there. And now in hindsight, now that I've done all 4 corners, I will say you probably don't need to do Rito first. You probably can. It'd be tight. You'd have to get clever with your Ultra Hand stuff, but you probably don't need to go top left. You could probably do all this stuff in any order, but it did make it a lot easier.
See, you would have said, I know what I get and why it says like that, but my first thought would have been, all right, I got to build me a bird sled with some fans, and we got to go somewhere.
Yeah, now I'm thinking
go into the high with a control stick.
Yeah. No, that probably would have, and I think that would have worked, and would definitely work. That's what I mean.
Would need the battery probably to do it, but yeah.
Yeah. A couple things I kind of jotted down that maybe will spark some conversation, but one thing that stood out to me pretty early on was, this was just a fun, stupid thing, but I found a stable in the desert that was filled with boxes. Did you guys run into this one yet?
I haven't really been in the desert too much.
There's a guy inside, and he's like, boy, I'd really like to open up this stable for everybody, but they've got all these boxes in here. I wish I could clear them out. And I was like, all right. Grab the Ultra Hand, start pulling the boxes out one by one. And I was like, hold on a second. Boxes burn. This sucks. Can I just catch them all on fire? So I picked up a torch outside of the stable, held it near the little cooking pot that was there, walked inside and lit one match, buddy, and it all went up in flames. Sure enough, yeah, they all did. They all vanished. He thanked me for it, and then I got to run around spamming A to pick up a bunch of baked apples that fell out of the burned boxes. Pretty good. But I love like those little moments in this game where you just kind of happen upon things. If you guys had moments where you just tried something to see if it worked and were surprised to see that it did.
When I discovered the down. It was very much a for science moment.
Yeah.
And I went for it and I found it. I was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, I think we can talk about that. Nintendo decided to spoil it a day before, openly in one of the. Obviously, they're not called Iwata Asks any longer, but they're doing these Iwata Ask style things when big games come out. So they did one with all the development team behind Tears of the Kingdom, and in that they were like, "Yeah, you can go underground. You can do all sorts of stuff." Like that was confirmed. And another big element that I still kind of don't even feel like we should say the word. I feel like I know like people listening to this are probably like, yeah, we know we did it. But I also feel like just saying one word is kind of like, I found out about it literally a day before the game came out because it was in one of those developer interviews. And I was like, really? You said the thing? Anyway, Matt, you look perplexed, but it's just the things the big things you go to.
Oh,
just the names of them. Like literally, I wrote it down in all caps. I was just like so happy that it was named something. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, so you can go underground in this game. That's a big thing. I think that's one of the big surprises of this game is like, how do we redo Breath of the Wild? How do we reinvent Breath of the Wild? Well, what if the whole map above ground is also below ground? I mean, they really did a Symphony of the Night, right? Like, just what is up is down. And I'm still like having fun exploring down there.
Yeah, when I fell in and you land, it tells you you're in the depths, and the shiver went down my spine because I immediately thought the Dark Souls area, the depths, and how that was. I couldn't remember which game it was for a second, but now that I looked it back up and after the fact. And yeah, now I know why I sent shivers down my spine, because that place sucked. And then it was the prelude to the Blight Town.
Right.
So, and it's just all dark. It's all grungy. Like it is in that game. And this game is very much like dark, grungy.
Yeah.
And you have to light your own path until you find roots. Which I didn't even know that was a thing. I had to like go back to... I accidentally just talked to the right person that said, like, hey, meet me down there. And it was the same hole I jumped in. So I was like, oh, all right, well, at least I'm kind of familiar. I have some lights down there already. And then I realized what the mechanic is down there. And then like after you light a couple and you're like, I really kind of understand the mechanic down here.
I hit a point where I got to that same hole you're talking about that you have to jump down. And I started to get near it. But prior to that, I'd wandered off in some random direction and got chased by these big old hands, what were made out of malice. And when I got to that hole, I was like, I don't want to touch, because my heart started. I was like, oh, I don't want to touch that hole. So I didn't bother jumping down. I was like, I'll probably have to go down this at some point, but it's not now. But
yeah, I found the hole before I found those boys.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mark, what about you? Have you had any of those moments of just like magical discovery of, I can't believe that worked?
I don't know if it was magical. It was just more like, it was kind of like, I think I know what they want me to do here, so I'm just gonna do it and see if it works. And like, okay, yeah, it worked. Well, actually, bit of both. I guess it was kind of a good moment. There was as I was traveling, I was still in like the snowy area, and there was a giant thing of ice that looked like it was in the shape of a shrine. So I was like, oh, is this a shrine? I gotta thaw and then get into it. So I started melting it, and I was like, huh. It's getting pretty small. This ice is now smaller than the shrine. This is not a shrine. This was blocking an entrance to a cave. And then I was like, oh, alright. And so I started to explore the cave. It kind of became like a mini puzzle where, first you go down one waterfall, but in the center there's this gust of wind that is constantly happening, and turns out it keeps shooting you up, and you have to blow up all the rocks around you. Like they look very noticeable that you have to destroy them. And then all the more waterfalls appear, and at the bottom turns out to be a healing spa. And it gives you, and then there's treasure in there for doing that, and they reward you nicely. And I was like, all right, yeah, okay, that was cool. Was not expecting that. I was just like, ugh, I got to do another shrine, but it turns out it wasn't a shrine at all.
Yeah, that's a good surprise.
Yeah, so like that was definitely pleasant. The opposite was finding those hands.
Yeah, dude.
Those hands are fucking terrifying. Like,
especially when you find it above ground.
Yeah, that was.
I was in some like ruined area. I was like, all right, I see some metal crates. Maybe I just get some supplies while I'm traveling. And then out of nowhere, like the sky went red. I was like, what is happening right here?
Yep.
And like, I was like, is it's not a blood moon, right? Like, I don't know what's going on. And then like they just all came out and they all have eyes in their palms. I'm like, should I be running? Because like I just like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if it was like they're not going to approach me if I don't approach it. But no, they all just started screeching, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is a horror game now.
I tried fighting them at first, and it did not go well, so I just bailed.
I don't know if like some fans' webcomic spoiled me on what could happen, unless this was just their interpretation, and I don't know. But I think I just timed it out. Like it got stuck in some like between some objects, and I was just able to pick off most of them, but some of them were like they were still coming back. So like I didn't get rid of all the hands. I think it was like 2, maybe 3 left. And then it just went away on its own after some time.
Interesting.
So I don't know.
I wonder if that was because it was stuck and it despawned or something.
Yeah, like I don't know if it was like a script thing or there's something else to it that I just don't know. But I'm glad it was gone.
I've definitely been both times so far that I've run into them. I've been like the first time it took me by surprise in a cave and I died immediately because I got caught in the gloom. Because I was like, all right, I can outrun this thing. Nope, you can't outrun these fuckers.
No.
So then I went back into the cave and I was like, all right, how do I approach these? And I tried shooting them. I think I died again. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to run. I'm going to climb on this wall and see if they go up and follow me. And so I got away from them that time, and I didn't do anything, and they seemed to go away, but every time I touched that floor in the cave, and they came back. The spot I ran into them, like in normal, like above ground, I got onto a hill, or I got on like this little like plop of land, and like it could easily go in 360 me. It was like this little thing, whatever. And they stayed there, and then finally, like, the music and stuff went away, and it despawned. So, of course, I was very much like, all right, don't fucking touch the lava. Like, don't touch the ground. Don't touch the ground. And I needed to go up because there was a tower, like, right up the hill, like, maybe 200 yards out. And I was like, all right, we're going to I'm going to continue climbing this thing, and I'm going to fucking jump, and I'm going to try to glide as far as I can, and once I hit the ground, I'm just going to book it. Well, then the tower told me I had to go back down the hill to find this cave and find something. I was like, God damn it. So, like, going down the hill, and I have actively been back to that location, like, 2 times for various different things. And I'm trying to get the hands to come back, and I can't get them. So I don't know if it's, like, a timing-based thing. The fact that they don't come back, and they just kind of will, like, decide to do it whenever, I think is more scary. and drives fear and concern and uncertainty all throughout my travels in Hyrule now.
I think we should probably get close to calling it here, but I want to give y'all the opportunity. If there's anything you kind of jotted down that you wanted to talk about, or discoveries or things you're liking, things you're not liking that you wanted to talk about now.
I definitely had some stuff written down. I just gotta.
I'm like looking through my notes and I'm like, some of the stuff's a little more specific than I think we should be in this episode. So I'm going to hold off on certain things. Cause some of my little notes like lean into some cutscene stuff and, some general progression.
There was one thing, random stuff. There's one of those shrines where like you have to kind of build the shrine. Like you go to the shrine, there's nothing there, and it gives you like that beam of light. There was one like point inside a cave, that cave, and took out some enemies in there, and I was like, all right, how do I get this out? And I saw like the rocket little mechanical thing. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna fucking go, but we're gonna put this thing on a rocket and send it out of here, and we're gonna hope it lands. And it was one of those gratifying moments where I was like, I don't think that's how the game necessarily intended, or like my launch angle, how it intended for this thing to get out of here. But it got out of there and it landed fairly close where I didn't have to hike too much with my Ultra Hand carrying this thing to the shrine.
I had a similar one, but I ended up like, because that little shrine rock, you can like attach that to things. So I like built a whole flying machine, attached it to that with rockets, and then attached fans to it so that I could successfully fly it over. But I love that there's many solutions to the same problem and they're all valid.
Yeah, I guess just for the sake of recording it, because I don't know how I'm going to be post game about it. I should acknowledge, I guess, my current pros and cons.
Yeah.
That I have. So we already talked about most of about the pros already. It's a very good intro. I even like the cutscenes. I like that they feel more important this time around.
Yeah.
Whenever you do run into them, I do like the new mechanics. I know I'm not utilizing them enough, but I do like them a little more than what we had in Breath of the Wild.
Exponentially so.
For the cons, it all kind of. I'll save the crafting for later, but I feel like a lot of the treasure chests that you find aren't really worth going out of your way for.
No, especially the ones in the shrines.
There's just a lot of it's too much effort to put into some of these puzzles to solve just to get some opal. And it's I would have felt better about this if this was an ungloomed sword or something, please. Something I can actually use. I mean, yes, you can use the opal. It has water element to it for your arrows or something, but I don't want that. I'm always finding ore everywhere I go, and it's that's just not I don't know. So yeah, a lot of it just doesn't feel worth it, even though I'm still gonna do it because curiosity, you're gonna want to know what's in there. This I was hoping was gonna get addressed. I don't think a lot of people talk about, and it never got fixed from Breath of the Wild. Perks. So when you are eating food that has special abilities on them, maybe you have better defense, better attack, or you have heat resistance or cold resistance. If you eat something else that has a different ailment on it, it gets rid of the other one. They don't stay together. So I can't have cold resistance while better strength.
Yeah.
I can't have two different timers going on at the same time. It's just one meal takes over the other. And it's all right, have you never had food? What?
no warning for it either. Like,
right, and it's like, have you never ate in real life before? Like, have you ever ate a meal that had all your vitamins that you needed? You get them all at once. One doesn't get rid of the other vitamin.
Time doesn't stack either for the same perk. So if you eat something that's 6 minutes and then something that's 3 minutes of the same cold resistance or whatever, it doesn't stack to 9. It goes down to 3.
That feels like a thing. Like, it feels like they just. I feel like they didn't think about that at all. And that
was a peculiar.
Yeah, so like you really got to time out everything. So like, but it's whatever. Like, I can manage. I can get around it. I can deal with it. You know, it doesn't break the game for me. But I was hoping that was something that would have got addressed, and it didn't. But
yeah,
I guess it's kind of the trade off with a lot of things that did get kind of made up for. Or maybe a little better polished. I guess that's the price to pay, and that's okay. But yeah, the crafting, maybe it's more of a personal thing, but like it sends such a mixed message for me at the moment, where it's like, yes, this game is all about creativity and freedom and how you want to approach it, and that's awesome. But at the same time, you keep leaving me shit everywhere. Then you're implying this is what I need to do this thing. So you're kind of limiting my creativity or telling me what to make by having that there to begin with. But at the same time, I don't always want to be creative because that's exhausting mentally. And I will just grab that piece of wood you left there for me. Thank you. So it's like, I'm very conflicted at the moment because it's like, it's so much crafting that is so un-Zelda to me that I'd rather just play Minecraft at that point. But at the same time, I don't know. Just because it's there doesn't mean I have to use it. Like, it's all up to me, right? So it's a very internal struggle I have at the moment, where it's like this kind of became the core of the game, and I wish it didn't. But I just got to get used to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a wave you ride, and you can bounce on, bounce off. I
don't think I cared about crafting until I saw someone on Reddit make Metal Gear X out of Zonai devices, and I was wait, I'm back in on the crafting.
And it's like, how much time is... And it's like, so that's... And I'm also impatient, so like... Yeah, like, my own struggles are becoming a bigger obstacle now.
No, but I think as you start to unlock more of the Zonite things, like the tools, because you don't have everything at the beginning, you start to get things later on and discover more things and whatever. You're able to start to see, like, oh, wait, I can probably do some wild stuff.
So a lot of my stuff has just been slap a rock on it. Like, that's kind of been like my approach to everything.
I'm sorry, there was one more thing. I don't know by the time this comes out, I don't know what the state of the actual US economy will be, but I will tell you that Hyrule is in a recession. I don't know how the fuck to get rupees in this game. It is.
And they
are.
Patched. I didn't do the duplication glitch, but
I wasn't doing that either. Yeah, no, rupees are far and few between in obtaining in this game.
Yes,
so you can either
I'm broke.
Shoot that little blue alien bunny that keeps floating around.
Yep, I shoot that thing to high heaven.
Yeah,
which always leads you to a cave. I learned.
Yes, and he always runs off to a cave.
And selling ore is going to be probably your greatest.
Yeah, I've seen some success selling ore and some enemy parts or whatever. But no, for the first
that is strange. I never thought about that.
5-10 hours this game, I was broke as shit.
Yeah. Yep. Like, we're so used to cutting grass and getting money, and it's just like, nope,
that's
not a thing, bud.
Nope.
Oh, and when that one said bunny, I ran into that bunny in the Gloomhand area when I was unsure whether or not, and it ran towards the Gloomhands. I said, fuck it, and I'm like, I can't go that way.
I don't need money that badly.
No. Yeah, exactly.
I will add, if you are looking for more opportunities to use fuse, I would always fuse whatever shield you're carrying with a minecart so that you can skateboard.
I've definitely done that. Since you showed me that, I've definitely done that.
That is about that. That's okay.
One thing that's been helpful is if you fuse a ruby with a shield and just carry that shield, it will keep you warm, so you do not need to use an elixir or a meal to keep you warm. That's ruby plus shield. I've not tried like sapphire plus shield
Okay, the ore, or the mineral.
Yeah, the gem.
Okay, I thought you were talking about a rupee for a second. I was like, did you not hear where I said they're few and far between? I can't be using one for a shield.
I wonder
I don't
if
think you
could
confuse
fuse
them.
a rupee with something and beat
Well, I guess
it
they
and
fall
have
in
it-
I guess they fall into the ground, so you
and you have to
pick
hit
them
A
up.
to pick them up. Like they're there before.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yeah, you do.
All right, I'm gonna try that tonight
Interesting.
too. Just shoot one of those little blue. Yeah. Let's close on this. Where are we at our count and progress? We don't have to be like super specific, but well, actually, I know where you guys are because I looked it up for you before this. So you guys are both tied at 25 hours apiece. Mine says 40 hours is where I'm at. At this point, I've done the 4 major corners. I will, if you
The
will,
phenomenas.
Sure. Yes, I've investigated those 4 phenomenas. I have sought all 11 of the glyphs.
Okay.
And yeah, I still have like 2 more towers to go to complete the map, and I have a ton of the underworld to see and the sky world to see still. Where are you guys at with phenomenon?
I've done the northeast and the northwest one.
Okay.
I am actively, I think, making my way down southeast. I got that correct. Southeast. But I'm allowing myself to get lost.
Yeah.
I did not do that last game. You said my hour count. I was going to joke and said I'm taking my time. I'm 20 minutes into my 2-hour run, but no. I'm allowing myself to get lost. More than I ever did in Breath of the Wild. And yeah, I feel like last time I got bored because I was just going from point A to point B over mountains, through rivers and whatever. I've been sticking to the roads a lot more in this game. I've been finding, like, it's still Breath of the Wild like, but I feel like I've been getting a lot more interaction. I've been running to the stables a little bit more, and I feel like a lot of the stables have like a side quest for the area to kind of help you explore it. And as you're exploring, you'll see the shrines in the area that you can mark. So I feel like that progression of how I've been exploring has helped a lot too. And so I'm not just going to the area I need to go to for the phenomenon and then moving on. I've been like actively exploring the areas or whatever. I'm not going to say I get everything. There's no way, but
No.
getting the glyphs along the way, that I finally understand. It took me a while to understand what was going on there. Doing the glyphs along the way, shrines that I can find, caves that I see, the hobgoblin areas. I take my time in this game.
Mark, how about you?
Yeah, I've only seen one phenomenon.
Mhm.
I got from there. I decided I want to go in the order of a specific order with the glyphs. So I've been trying to uncover those, but at the same time, I'm trying to get all the towers so I can just complete the map before I start diving into everything. So I do have a specific order, but I am currently in Kakariko Village.
Okay, yeah.
And about to go and solve that problem there, where like some idiot is stopping me from entering a certain area there.
I think my save, it's been like a day or two since I played, but I think I am right outside of Kakariko.
It's so funny.
Yeah, okay, so
that was one of the first towns you find in Breath of the Wild, and I was like 20 hours into the game before I even went that direction. And once I got there and saw everything was kind of whatever, I was like, I'll deal with y'all later. I just left. But I love that you have these options to like do what you want.
No, I think I just did the shrine. Is it like the shrine like up on the hill overlooking the village?
Yes,
there is one. Yeah.
I think I just walked out of there, and I think I saw the village, and I was figuring, that's the one for Breath of the Wild, and I kind of saved. That was a good stopping point. I felt like
I did have to look it up because I just wanted to know what it was used for, but I forgot already, so it was pointless. But in Kakariko, there's a little girl selling wreaths that she makes. And I don't know what to do with it because you can't put it in your inventory. You're always carrying it if you hit A or whatever.
Oh.
But I learned, put that on a shield, like a crappy shield you don't never use, and then it'll be in your inventory.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about carrying it everywhere.
So what, does it take over the shield, or is the shield just...
No, like you fuse it to your shield.
Can you break apart a fuse like that?
So
yes,
you can, but it damages whatever you attach to the item. However, there is one fella in the northeast you can talk to, and he will unfuse things without damaging them.
Oh, then I'll find that fella. But I haven't fused anything crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I don't. There's probably no real significance to that, but if you end up buying that wreath and then you just realize, oh, I got to put it down, you can do that.
I wonder if you get a house in this game. Like, there's those types of things. I'm like,
I mean, that I know the answer to.
I feel like I do too, but
Yeah.
it's like that's the stuff where I'm at with this. Where like I'm curious about how the world continues to progress.
Yeah.
The characters, those types of things, and like what does Hyrule's like in a sense of like being rebuilt. So I wonder like what happens time wise with this game. Like,
sure.
Very curious on all that. Let's close on this one. Do you guys like the game?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm thoroughly enjoying myself.
Yeah, I think like once I'm in it, I'm enjoying it, but my current obstacle is building the momentum to get back into it. So like
Yeah.
it's like once I'm away from it, I'm not missing it, but once I'm in it, I'm in it. Like those hours that those 25 hours, most of that was from one weekend.
Yeah, I had a bit of the same where like I really, once I get going, but I definitely have these moments where I'm like, I'm good, I'll play something else. Like I actively had to go play some other things recently just to like give myself a break from this world. But it's always, once I get in it, like I'm now talking about it, I'm like, okay, I've got 20 things I need to do like now. You know what I mean? Like
That's part of my problem. I don't play it every day because I don't have the 2.5 hours that day because that's my playtime. That's been like my average session on the low end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna bring our part 1 episode to a close, and when we return next week, we will have jumped through the future. But our next episode will pick up after the three of us have completed the story, I'll say. We will at least have done that, and we'll kind of talk about where we're at. We'll go a little bit heavier into spoiler territory and those types of things. And then our final part 3 of this will kind of be our post-mortem on the game, followed by our ranking of the game on the list. So be sure, go back. We've had an excellent year, I know that, of many games and many podcasts. So go back through season 11 if you're just joining us for this episode. Thefreecheese.com is a website you can go to and find everything we've recorded this far. Thefreecheese.com/thelist is where you can go and look at all the games we have ranked. And podcast at thefreecheese.com is an email address where you can send us an email because social media is dead and email is the future. Let us know what games you would like to see added on the list. Tell us what you think of Tears of the Kingdom so far. Anything, reach out. And that's that. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye.